Hello friends, and welcome back to Come Home Cottage. If this is your first video that you're watching from my channel, welcome. My name is Larissa. This right here is my dog Prince. So today I have something a little bit different than what I've been doing on my channel. My channel is really about homemaking, homesteading, and simple living. And I really just want to share some of the things that I've been learning that have brought me so much joy in my life and share that with you guys so that you can maybe find some encouragement and inspiration in your everyday life as well. So today I'm going to be sharing a video on how to crochet a dishcloth. And I've been crocheting now for about 10 years. And it is one of the things that I absolutely love to do in the evenings. I'll bring it with me when I'm waiting for an appointment or if I just have some extra time throughout my day. So I want to share that with you guys today. Now I will give you a heads up, I am left-handed, so this tutorial is for left-handed crocheters, but it is still possible to learn how to crochet with a video like this. When I started to crochet, I learned from my grandmother and then who is right-handed, and then I had to go onto YouTube and find some videos, but there were very few video tutorials for left-handed crocheters. So I learned mostly from right-handed. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can stick around and we're going to do that together today. And for later on this week, I'm preparing a video for you guys more around homesteading, but I won't say just yet what it is. You'll have to wait and see. So grab a nice cup of tea or coffee and get cozy, or bring along your crochet hooks and yarn and spend some time learning how to develop a new skill or hobby. For this project, we're going to be using Bernat 100% cotton yarn. And when you turn that over, you can see on the back they have these logos for what size crochet hook or knitting needles you're going to need for this project. I crochet and I can't knit to save my life, so I only ever look at this. So they're asking for a 5mm, or sorry, they're suggesting a 5mm crochet hook here for this project. I don't always listen to those rules, and the reason being is because for this project, I'm going to go a bigger hook. I'm going to go with a 6.5mm hook. And the reason why is because I like my dishcloths to have a little bit more flexibility. And so when you go up in hook size, that makes your project just a little bit bulkier, a little bit more flexible when you go with a smaller crochet hook. So say you're going for a 4mm crochet hook for this project, you're going to get a really, really tight a dishcloth out of this yarn. So starting out, I would definitely recommend that you go with what they're suggesting here on the back. It's probably just going to be easier. Then you can determine as you gain your experience what you want to do with your projects and what's going to work for you. So at least starting out with what they're recommending, you get to see how that's going to turn out for you. So we are going to start out with some basics for terminology and how to. So first things first is we're going to need to do a chain. So a chain starts off with your loop here. So there's multiple ways to do this, but I'll show you how I do mine, and you can research what might be best for you, what's easier for you. Everyone crochets a little bit differently. So you just got to find your style and what works, but I'll show you what I do. And it works for me, it works for my projects. So I make a circle, and then you have your tail here, and I put the tail through the back of the loop, hold on to these here and pull that tight. Okay, so there you have it. There's your first loop where you're going to create your chain. So you put your hook through, tighten it up a little bit, but not too much. You still want to be able to have a lot of room to work. You don't want things to be so tight that you have to shove your hook through in order to be able to do your stitches. So now that we have our hook in our loop, I'm going to show you how to hold the yarn with your right hand. So when you're starting crocheting, you need to build that muscle memory. It's going to take a while for it to feel comfortable. It's going to feel really awkward at first, but if you can learn the proper way to hold it, your hands will definitely thank you for it. I think I held it wrong for many years, and your hands start to cramp up and you get some pains in your muscles here, and that's not good. So I learned how to hold it correctly a few years ago, and I'll just show you what works for me. Like I said, you can figure out the way that works for you best, what's more comfortable for your hands when you're crocheting. It's really a personal preference, but for me, what I do is take this side of the yarn, put it over your pinky, feed it back behind your fingers, and your pinky is kind of going to hold the yarn. That's where the yarn is going to be feeding through. So you want to have a nice give and take there. And then the yarn's going to come behind your fingers, and then your pointer finger is going to be the one that provides that tension for when you start to crochet. Okay, that's going to feel really awkward at first, but I promise you, the more experience you have, the more you practice, that's going to just feel completely natural after a little while. So okay, so that's how you hold the yarn in your right hand. Like I said, if you want to try something different, you can definitely do that. And in order to create our chain, we're going to do a chain of 22 for this dishcloth project. You can determine how big you want it. If you want a bigger dishcloth, you can do it a bit bigger than that. If you want it smaller for your first project, you can do it smaller. But for today, we'll do a chain of 22. And so in order to do our chain, we need to do slip stitches. So slip stitches are yarn over and pull through. Okay, so that's our first chain by doing a slip stitch. So yarn over and pull through. Yarn over, pull through. So that's your slip stitch. So in projects where it says you need to do a slip stitch, that's basically what you do. It's really easy. Yarn over, pull through. Okay, so now we have 4 chains on our project here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to keep going until we get to 22. But I'll just show you another trick here is when you're holding your crochet hook here, you're yarning over, and when you're pulling through that chain, you want to make sure that your hook is pointed downward like this, because it kind of creates that teardrop look. Sorry, my hand is in the way. Kind of creates that teardrop look that you're pulling through, and it just makes it a lot smoother and easier, because if you don't do that, you're yarning over, you're trying to pull your hook through, and it's not gonna be very easy. So you yarn over and you pull it through that teardrop shape. Okay, so you keep going, and you'll notice I'm holding my project with my middle finger and my thumb, while my index finger and the yarn is flowing through down by my pinky there. And you'll notice I'm not making them super tight. I think what I what I did in the beginning and what a lot of crocheters tend to do is you're trying to get it to be tight. You're trying to do a perfect job. So sometimes it can be way too tight. You want to kind of give it a bit of flexibility here, because when you start doing your stitches, you don't want to be shoving your hook through the yarn to try to make a stitch. So I'm kind of giving it a bit of a tug every time I do another chain, every time I do a slip stitch. Okay, so I'm gonna have to count this now. So how you count your chains is, this is your first chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So we need 3 more to make 22. Okay. So there's our beautiful chain of 22. Don't get discouraged if it looks a bit loose or if it looks a bit tight. Really, it's the practice of it all. The more experience you have, the better it'll turn out for you. I've been crocheting for years and sometimes my chains just don't look very good, but that's okay. So what I would recommend is when you're first starting out, just do a bunch of chains. Just keep chaining and chaining and chaining and starting over and doing your, practicing those slip stitches to try to get that muscle memory. And then you can start with your project. So I'll show you how to start your dishcloth here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a really simple single crochet. So we're not gonna get too complicated today. We're gonna do a single crochet. So again, I'm holding my yarn underneath my pinky there, allowing that finger to give it some tension. And there's a couple ways you can do this. So when you're first starting your project here, it's gonna be a bit awkward because you don't have normal stitches to go off of. You're going off of your chain. So what you can do is you can do your stitches from the top of the stitch here, from the top of the chain. So you can go in, do your single crochet, and that'll be that. Or what I like to do, because it makes it a lot cleaner, is instead of working from the top like this, you turn it. So turn that chain and you see those little humpbacks, those lumps. I like to crochet in those because then you get a nicer, cleaner bottom of your project, okay? So what we're gonna do for a single crochet is you're gonna insert the hook into that first stitch here, which is right here. So insert your hook there. If I can get it. And the first one's always kind of tricky. There we go. So single crochet, you insert your hook into that loop, into that chain. You yarn over, pull through. You yarn over, and you pull through both of those loops. Okay? So that's single crochet. So next, so that's our stitch, that's our first single crochet stitch in this project. It's right into that first loop there. Now this is going to be our second loop. So you're going to put your hook into the second loop, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull through again. So all the way down this chain, you're going to do a single crochet. So remember, if this gets a bit twisted, you just want to make sure that it's always a straight line. So you're going to put your hook through, you're going to yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, and pull it through. And remember to keep your hook down so that it pulls through that teardrop shape perfectly. So you're going to do single crochets up until the very end, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so now you're at the end of the chain, and I've got 2 more single crochets left to do before I'm at the end of the chain. So you're going to insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through. One more. So that's your last one here, whether you're doing it this way or you're going through the hump at the top there. That's your last one. So you're going to insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through. Okay, so now you're at the end of the chain. You've done your first row of single crochet. That's what it's going to look like. And at the end of each row, you're going to chain 1. So yarn over and pull through. So you're just going to chain 1, doing a slip stitch at the end of each row. Now you're going to turn your project, turn it around, and you're going to work on row 2. So doing this is going to be a lot easier now that you've done your first row. You're going to start going right into each stitch. So what you're going to do here is you're going to go into the first stitch here, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So we're keeping on with the single crochet. We're just doing it easy. We're not going to do anything crazy, just so you can learn the basics in this first project. So that's the first stitch in the first chain. Now we're going to do the next one, single crochet, yarn over, pull through. And you're going to do single crochet all the way down this row. Into each stitch. That's the next one. So do single crochet all the way to the end, and I'll meet you there. Okay, so now I'm at the end of row 2, and I have 2 more single crochets to do to finish row 2. So this is the second last. Yarn over, pull through. And then this one can be a bit tricky. Sometimes it doesn't look like a stitch because it's kind of drooping or it's twisted, so it doesn't really look like it's a last stitch. But you just want to kind of smooth it out, you know, make sure your project is straight, and then do a single crochet in that last stitch. If you drop a stitch, your project will not be a square, it will be a triangle. And don't get discouraged if that happens, because that's happened to everyone I know that's starting out in crochet. Even if you are experienced, it can easily happen. So just be patient with yourself. You'll have to probably go back and count your stitches. One thing you can do when you're first starting out is to count your stitches while you're going, just to make sure that you're not missing anything. There are stitch counters that you can buy. I've never used them personally, so I can't recommend it or tell you how to use them, but you can count your stitches that way if you want to. So here we have the last single crochet in that stitch there on the end of row 2, and moving forward after every row you're going to do a slip stitch, and that's going to count as your first stitch for the next row. So then you turn your project again. So you're going to do exactly what you did, single crochet all the way to the end of the row, I'll just show you again here. So your first stitch here was that chain. You're next going to go into, put your hook into here and just continue on with your single crochet. Okay, so keep going and do as many rows as you want, depending on how big you want your dishcloth. So I don't know, I might do around 10 or 15 rows, and then I'll come back and we'll finish the project off. We'll do a nice border, and then you'll have your first dishcloth. So I ended up doing around 22 rows. If you're doing a double crochet or something a bit fancier, it might be a little less rows depending on how high you want it. But with a single crochet, I ended up doing 22 rows to make it a nice square. So what we're going to do at the end of this last row here, instead of chaining one like you did with every other row, we're just going to keep working around the project to do a nice border. Now we'll just do something simple. We'll just keep going with the single crochet. So here, we're going to put another stitch, another single crochet in that last spot, because we want to add some room to allow for the corner of the dishcloth. And basically you just single crochet all the way down and around. And so keep going down this line. So this is the side of your dishcloth. That's the side of your dishcloth. So keep going all the way to the end, and I'll show you how to make sure you get a nice corner edge on your dishcloth. Okay, so we're at the end of the side of our project doing our border. So we're just going to keep single crochet here. We'll do a single crochet. We'll do 2 single crochets in here at the corner, because we want to make sure we have a nice rounding edge to our dishcloth and that it's not scrunching up and you don't have enough room there. Now this little tail here that we had from the start, you can just kind of tuck that along the line of your project here and just crochet that into your project. You'll eventually just cut off the rest of it, but just to make sure it's nice and tight in there. And you'll just keep crocheting along these stitches here. So this would be the bottom of your project where you initially started your chain. You're just gonna single crochet all the way along this row, and then follow the same idea. You put 2 single crochets in the corner to allow you for some space, and you'll get a nice rounded edge like that. So you do that all the way around your dishcloth, and at the end I'll show you how to finish. Okay, so I've gone around the whole dishcloth and just done a nice little border. It just makes it look a lot cleaner, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to. You can just finish the project without doing a border, and I'll show you how to finish and tie it up. So here we're at the end. All I'm going to do here, instead of doing 2 single crochets in this corner, because we're not going to keep going around and around, I'm just going to do a slip stitch here just to tie this corner into this edge. So a slip stitch is bring the yarn through, bring it through, and that's it. Okay, so that's just a slip stitch just to give that a nice edge at the end of our project. Okay, and so what you're going to do now, you're going to just give yourself a little bit of room to work. Cut this off. You're going to pull this through. Okay. So there's a lot of ways that you can tie this up and make this look nice. I kind of just figured out my own way to do it. I like the way I do it this way. It's just kind of easy and simple and doesn't take a whole lot of extra effort. But you can still hide this string, this yarn, without making it bulky or sticking out. So what I'll do is, here you have it sticking out on the side here. I get a smaller crochet hook. There are hooks that you can buy that are really small, and they'll be able to kind of help you pull your yarn through your project, depending on the projects that you're doing. But with this one, I'm just going to use a small crochet hook. And so I just insert it at the top here. I'm going to pull that tail through. And through the back, I'm going to pull that tail through again. This is going to tie it up at the top here. Just pull it tight, make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, so that's going to be tied nicely and tightly at the top. And then what you can do with this is, because you don't want it just sticking out there, you don't want to have to cut it right there and let it hang. You want to be able to kind of hide it in your project. And so what I do is I'll just grab my crochet hook or whatever you want to use, whatever you have, and pull that yarn through into the bottom of your the bottom part of your project. That way it's kind of hidden a little bit. Then you're going to take your scissors, cut that off. There you have it. You can barely see it. And it doesn't often come loose. If it does, you can tuck it in somewhere. Just do whatever you think works best for your project. So there you are. You finished your very first crochet dishcloth with a single crochet. You've done a nice border around it, and it looks great. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and hit that thumbs up button. That really helps the channel to grow, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.